It's cool that we record this, right?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
You are being recorded.
Love it. Okay. I love that I'm seeing some candidates here as well. That's really exciting. Um, awesome. Okay, cool. So, welcome to our intro to tech purchasing. We're super excited to have a wide range of experience levels with us today. Like I said, I'm seeing some experienced staff here, some county party staff, some candidates. But it is a big deal to be handed the keys to drive a strategic decision for your organization or for your campaign. And if you're here, hopefully you are in charge of selecting the technology that your campaign will run on, or that your organization will run on. Um, personally, I come from campaigns. I come from campaign world. I work for Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, Maura Healey, and some down ballot local candidates in Massachusetts as well. And I know that tech decisions are really easily overlooked, but they are really critical in building your campaign infrastructure and running a really successful campaign. So excited to dive into this. I am Liv. I am the program and political strategy person at Higher Ground Labs. And like I said, I come from campaign world, so hopefully will be a helpful partner as you all are making these decisions, because I have sat where you have sat prior to my role at Higher Ground Labs. So goals for this training. I hope that after this training, you all feel more confident making tech purchases, more confident connecting with vendors. And also, I just hope that you feel ready to take the next step. We are also going to go through our buyer's guides for down ballot races. We're going to talk about specific tools that are out there that you can start using tomorrow, if you wanted to. So I hope you get a better sense of the tech tools that exist in our ecosystem as well. Okay, so for our agenda, I'm gonna give you all some intro to tech purchasing. So why are campaigns buying tech? What budget should I allocate to tech infrastructure? What are the actual steps of purchasing tech and talking to vendors? And then we're gonna get into the specific tools across media and messaging, fundraising, organizing, polling, and I also have some research tools thrown in there as well. Great. Okay, so we've been throwing around Higher Ground Labs. I'm sure some of you are not familiar with us, so I just wanted to give you some quick overview. Higher Ground Labs is a venture fund and an ecosystem builder that invests in technology for political progress. So we build and strengthen the political tech ecosystem by connecting users, like you all, to creators of technology directly. And ultimately, we want Democrats to win. We want progressives to win. And we know that one of the best ways that they can do that is by harnessing the power of tech and innovation. So we are a hub for stakeholders in political technology, but we don't invest in a vacuum. So we're not just a venture firm investing in political tech startups. We bring together founders with democratic campaigns, progressive causes, and as we dive into the specifics of how tech can power this movement, I just want to take a moment and say, like, this is a very exciting cycle. I think we're all feeling a ton of energy. I don't know if anyone was at the convention last week. Higher Ground Labs was there, and it just felt really exciting. And so I think there's a lot to do. You all feel that. And there's not a lot of time, but tech can help you do that, and be really successful. So I just wanted to shout out the energy. We're not doing this in a vacuum, right? Oh, Sarah, you were a delegate. From where? That's so exciting. Um, yeah, and
Ohio.
oh, great, awesome, cool. Yes, so much energy, so much fun. Okay, so before we dive into the actual process, I just wanted to do a quick, like, most of us are on camera, so you don't have to do a formal poll. Just like a thumbs up, middle, down, how comfortable are you selecting campaign tech? Have you done it before? Have you made a tech selection before? Is this your first time? I would love to see some thumbs. Or in the chat, you can pop that in as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up, some middles. Okay, political IT is new to me. Some thumbs down. Okay, great. Cool. Well, hopefully by the end of this training, we'll get some of the thumbs down and middle more to a thumbs up. Great. So at HCL Higher Ground Labs, we really want you to treat finalizing your tech infrastructure as an essential part of your program. Just like setting your budget, just like hiring your campaign manager, signing your field office lease. I know you've been working with Jess and Deborah and the whole arena team this week to talk about GOTV strategy and goals, right? We want you to see setting tech infrastructure and finalizing your tech infrastructure as an essential part of your campaign checklist. But you have to know where to start and where to set your priorities and your budget. So that is where we will come in today. What is a tech stack? I've also been getting those questions. What is a tech stack? A tech stack are just the various tools that you'll use to run your campaign. They're your CRMs, your data and modeling tools, your voter contact tools, your fundraising tools. There's a ton of tech on this industry landscape map. You probably won't use all of the tools, and you probably can't afford to use all of the tools. No campaign can afford to use all of those tools. So today I want to break down how to strategically think about which tools are must-haves, which tools are nice-to-haves, and also just how to go about thinking through those decisions, right? Because every campaign is different, every candidate is different, every race is different. I'm curious though if folks can look at this map and spot any of the tools that they've used before or that they are currently using. Vote Builder is on here. I'm sure folks are using Vote Builder. Scale to Win. Act Blue is on here as well. Civitech. Okay, that's awesome. We're going to talk about Civitech today. Good Stock. Impactive. I think a lot of folks have used Impactive. Mobilize is on here. That's a common infrastructure one. Let's see. Civis, amazing. PDI. Okay, great. We won't have time to talk through every single one of these tools today, of course, but I'll give you a peek into the ones that we specifically recommend for down ballot races. Okay, so want to give you all some framing. Why are campaigns buying tech? Every cycle, Higher Ground Labs conducts our election tech survey to really understand the trends, use cases, and gaps in political technology, and also to better support the progressive movement's tech needs moving forward. And we've seen that campaigns who make strategic tech decisions earlier in the cycle are able to connect with more voters and make more impactful engagement with those voters. So this is our 2020 election tech survey compared with our 2022 election tech survey. And it's good news. 37% of respondents engaged over 1 year before election day. I'm sure a lot of you already have some tech tools that you're already using. But we are definitely in this 1 to 3 months area before the election slot. So I want to make sure we make the most of the tech tools that we have and be able to make some strategic decisions quickly. ahead of this training, we received a lot of questions about budgets. So I want to get into this a little bit. Our election tech survey also gave us some insights on total budget allocation on political tech. So on the left, we see kind of a wide range of spending with nearly 30% of respondents allocating between $10,000 to $20,000 to tech infrastructure. The pie chart on the right also shows the percentage of overall budget for tech. About 28% of campaigns said they spent up to 10% of their campaign budget on tech tools. Now, keep in mind, this is this is holistic. So if we go back, this is 1+ year before the election, all the way through to 1 to 3 months before the election. So, many of these tools charge at a monthly rate. So you might be allocating less at this point than all the way up to that 10%. So we can break this down even further. Federal campaigns. So if we have, I don't think we have any federal campaigns on here. If we do, just shout. But for budget sizes of 50 to 100, we saw about 20% allocated to tech. And city, county, local for budget sizes total of 1K to 10K, they spent up to 10% on their tech. And then for C3, C4's PACs, which had bigger budget sizes, they still spent up to 10% of their tech. I'm curious if folks can just take a second and do that math. If folks are kind of, you don't have to say it out loud, you don't have to drop it in the chat, but if you know your campaign budget ballpark, I'm curious what percent you would allocate to tech. And maybe you can just have that budget in the back of your mind as we go through this training. So just take a second and do that math for yourself to give yourself some framing. Because all the tools that we go through, majority of them are very transparent about their pricing. So that'll give you an easy yes, I need this tool, or no, I need to, look elsewhere. Okay, we have our number. Can move on. Perfect. Okay. So, why do people say no to buying tech or purchase tech and don't end up using it? That's something that we see happening as well. The biggest inhibitor to adopting new campaign tech is complex integrations. So, integrations are crucial because they determine whether a new tool can sync data across other tools that are already in use. So a lot of you mentioned that, you're using Vote Builder, ActBlue, Mobilize. I saw some Civitech users. So it makes sense that as you're thinking about adding a new tool, it should really integrate seamlessly with the tools that are already in use rather than kind of existing in a vacuum. A great example I can already give you of this is Vote Builder, right? Like if an attendee signs up on Mobilize, their information gets into Vote Builder as well. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about an integration. And when thinking about tech tools that I wanted to go with you today, I prioritize tech that is one, affordable, right? And especially affordable for down ballot races. Two, synced with the most common campaign tech infrastructure. And also three, had really strong support teams. Because as we're going into GOTV and as we're scaling, you don't want to sign with a vendor that's going to completely ignore you when everything's breaking during GOTV, right? So that was another consideration. And I'll talk more about that as we get into it. Okay. So before I break down some of the actual tools that are out there, I wanted to spend some real time getting into the tech purchasing process. Like, how do you get started? What should you consider? Starting with a clear assessment of your needs and existing infrastructure is really essential. Before adding new tools, it's important to actually evaluate what you already have so you can identify any gaps and redundancies. Do you have two tools that are doing the same thing? Are you missing a tool for a core campaign function? You want to ensure that you're not just piling on more tools for the sake of piling on more tools, but you're making strategic tech investments that truly enhance your campaign's effectiveness. Okay, so many of you are probably using, like I said, Vote Builder, ActBlue, maybe a texting tool, maybe a fundraising tool. What tools are you using? Let's do our initial assessment together. Feel free to jot this down for yourself, throw it in the chat, speak out. Maybe it's no tools at all. Maybe you're like, I have not gotten Vote Builder through my county party. Let's take a moment and do that initial assessment together. Okay, Scale to Win, Vote Builder, Reach, ActBlue. Okay, great. Great. And I think that's probably that tech stack is probably pretty similar to a lot of folks on this call right now. So I think you're not alone in that, and we want to talk about how we can strategically build off of that. Okay. Um, let's talk about also core operations. You're running the cycle, right? Are you responsible for voter contact? Are you in a department that's just handling messaging? Are you the candidate yourself and you need to think holistically? Do you need to run polls? Like, I recommend when you're doing your initial assessment to really think through the departments on your campaign and think through where tools already exist and where you have gaps. That's kind of how I would approach your initial assessment. So feel free, take a moment for yourself, jot it down in the chat, shout it out. I'm gonna move to the next slide for timing, but just keep thinking about this as we're talking through the process, right? What are the core operations that you're running this cycle? Okay, so for those of you who have already made tech purchases or who will be making purchases for the first time, what do you think makes a good political tech tool? We talked a little bit about integrating with your existing systems. What else do you think you will look for in selecting tech? Feel free to just shout it out. And maybe you're like, I have no idea. Yeah, it just works. Yep, cost, yep. Communication with staff support, that is really huge. Mobile, yep, that's a big consideration, right? Like, is this in an app? Is this something that we could use on computers? Integrations, automation, ease of use for volunteers and staff. That is a really big one as well. Great. You guys are all exactly in the right direction. So when you're speaking with tech vendors, you want to make sure you're asking the right questions, right? To determine if the tool you're about to incorporate in your campaign checks these boxes. Customer support is a critical area. If you're scaling for GOTV, you want to make sure that you have a reliable support team, right? This is tech. We know it breaks. From time to time, right? Especially if you're running a campaign that has thousands and thousands of volunteers, best case scenario. Things could happen, right? Also, many people mention cost, right? Understanding the pricing model is essential. You should also think to ask about any fees or costs that might come up later beyond the startup costs to help you kind of budget more accurately and avoid surprises. I want to talk about this piece of data ownership and security because these are kind of crucial in today's digital landscape. So you want to ensure you understand who owns the data you input into their systems and how it's protected. This is particularly important if you're doing things with voters, so like maintaining voter privacy and campaign integrity. So these are, important questions that you should ask. People mentioned web or app in the chat. So you want to determine whether the tool is web or native app. This can impact greatly how accessible the tool is for your team and for your volunteers, especially when you're out working in the field. Finally, you should ask about the vendor's political values and philosophy. All the tools I've selected for you today that we're going to get into were specifically made for Democratic campaigns, progressive organizations. So that's great, right? You won't have to, these are already tested. These already work. These already are, you know, good on integrations, good on support teams. But if you're looking outside of what we're going to be talking about today, especially if you're looking outside the political tech industry, it's important to ask this question. You want to make sure you're working with companies that align with your campaign's values, and also just understand the unique challenges that you're going to face on a political campaign, and especially during GOTV. Okay. If you don't yet have a purchasing process in place, you're in luck. We have 7 steps to support you. So after you do your initial assessment, and we talked about it a bit together, but I would encourage you to spend some time after this call digging in a bit more on this piece. But after you do your initial assessment, there are some steps that can help you select the actual tech that you'll want to use. And let's go through them. Step 1 is just preparation and communication, right? This is where you establish your timeline, your decision-making process, what stakeholders need to get involved in the process, and what your goals are. So, identify who will be responsible for making the final decision and ensure everyone kind of understands their roles. Yeah, I would say in terms of timeline, like we're there, right? The timeline is now. So that makes it a little bit more simple in the process. Step 2 is to define your search and your needs. So once you have your big picture goals outlined, divide up the types of tool functions that you'll need. CRM. Some people said they're using Reach, relational, texting. If it's texting, do you need broadcast, SMS, peer-to-peer, both? Do you need a dialer? Do you need digital ad and influencer resources, analytics, dashboards, messaging, merchandising, internal comms, right? There's a million different directions you can go in, so break it down by department. And also remember, not everything can be a non-negotiable because there is no perfect tool that is out there. If you find it, let Higher Ground Labs know because we will definitely invest in it. There's no perfect tool right now. And knowing what you can and can't live without gives you more options to be flexible for other constraints like budget, data access, etc. Okay. Step 3, check out the Higher Ground Labs portfolio and blog spotlights, excuse me. And we're also going to go through in real time some resources today. Arena also has a digital tools library. There are progressive tech communities that have tools listed. There's a lot of resources out there. And hopefully this call will give you a better sense of this as well. We're going to send out also our down ballot buyer's guide that should help you with this process. But in this step, you're doing the work of actually reaching out to companies that have the strongest match between your needs and their product for a demo and a pricing conversation. So once you have the list of companies who meet your needs for each product step, take a step back and look at your tech stack. There's many alliterations. Look at your tech stack options as a whole. So is there duplication or other places for efficiency and decrease costs? Can the tools integrate in a way that works for your campaigns and for your volunteer workflows? this is the step where, instead of sharing each tool option with your stakeholders, if you're making this decision with stakeholders, try to organize your tech stack options as a whole where you can, and present these options as a holistic menu and budget versus one-offs. Does that make sense? Anyone have questions? Just stop me. Okay, seeing none. Okay, so some of you might skip this step if it's like, I am the candidate and it is me and my campaign director. That's great. If you have a bigger team, meet with stakeholders for final rounds of inputs. Remember to guide the group towards best collective decisions. People may have tools that they're loyal to or that they trust deeply or that they used on their 2012 election, whatever. And that's important too, right? Previous experience can be efficient, but it needs to work within the larger selections and needs of your campaign as well. Okay, congrats. Once you have made your decisions, you are ready to move into contracting and implementation. So this step, I say leave yourself plenty of time for finalizing pricing, contracts, legal redlining, if you have them. But I would set a target date for training and implementation and try to stagger these where possible if there is time and ownership for each tool. I would also recommend setting success metrics for each tool and the larger program as well with your stakeholders. The most important thing about using a campaign tool is just that, to use it, right? So make sure your tool owners are maximizing usage, finding value, and driving success for the campaign. If you are setting an implementation target date, or like, I want to train my volunteers by this day of the tool, feel free to share that with the vendors and let them know what timeline you're targeting towards when you're doing that kind of contracting negotiation. And finally, I would just say, like, keep enthusiasm high. You may not need to prep and share like a formally monthly report on each tool, but I would recommend keeping folks in the loop on overall performance, right? Like, share your stats, share your dashboards, heartwarming stories, or other victories to build confidence in your decision and your programs. And remember, it's okay if everything doesn't work out perfectly. Like, it's impossible to perfectly predict the future. Just be confident in your role of making the best decision for your team with the information that you have. And finally, I will plug this as well. Consider sharing your success stories with us, with Higher Ground Labs and with Arena, so we can include them in trainings like these to inspire others. Okay, with that, let's dive into the actual tools. Again, you might not need every tool we discuss, but kind of going through the practice of exploring these will strengthen your overall ability to evaluate and select the right tech for your campaign's needs. You saw this landscape map. It's actually a map that Higher Ground Labs puts out. So every year after every campaign cycle, we do a report. So this was published in 2023 about the 2022 cycle. And we also, a few months ago, released our AI edition of the Tech Landscape Report. So this is our latest edition, and it focuses on the role that AI is playing in the political tech landscape. And soon I predict that the two maps will be one. And some of the tools listed here we'll talk about today as well. Let's see. Okay. So let's start. Let's start with fundraising, everyone's favorite, right? Fundraising is a critical area that will make or break your campaign, right? Digital fundraising is definitely booming as a trend overall. And as a data point, ActBlue recorded a record number of donations in the last 2022 midterm cycle, almost 2 times the amount of the last midterms in 2018. And those numbers have far been surpassed with the Harris announcement. So space is definitely booming. An example of doing really great work in this space is Quiller. Quiller is actually an AI co-pilot that helps you draft and deploy high quality, effective content in emails, texts, op-eds, press releases, digital ad copy. Quiller is definitely useful for drafting fundraising content, especially if you have a very small team. But they also have a lot of additional capacity for organizing emails, SMS, digital ads, persuasive pieces like op-eds, press releases, petitions. And they're also going live with scripts in the next week or so. Another great fundraising tool is Good Change. So in January of 2023, Good Change launched their Spare Change Roundup feature, which allows donors to literally round up their purchases and donate the roundup amount to the recipient of their choice. Good Change also supports one-time payments, monthly recurring payments, same-day ACH transfers. I love Good Change for their leaderboards and their tracking dashboards. So they allow campaign teams to track their progress, and you can also make those public if you wanted to facilitate like little friendly competition amongst your donors if you're into that sort of thing. So let's look at a case study. Folks are probably familiar with DMO, the Democratic Municipal Officials. They struggled to establish their small dollar donor program due to, I'm sure, all the resource constraints that you all are facing right now, lack of time, lack of staff, lack of resources, and also just lack of expertise in online fundraising. They had a tight budget that made hiring a professional fundraising agency just completely out of reach. So DMO teamed up with Quiller to launch a small dollar fundraising program using their AI-powered email drafting to reduce the time spent on each fundraising email, which allowed them to send more frequent and targeted comms without overburdening their small team. And the results were, speak for themselves. Month after month, their campaign showed steady growth and reached more supporters and generated more donations. I love this story because, I think a lot of the tech tools that are out there are leveling the playing field for smaller campaigns. And this shows that even small teams can achieve really significant results with the right tools. Okay. I am going to share you all on this deck right here. I'll pop it in the chat. Here we go. I want to spend some time digging into some other fundraising tools that are out there. Using this deck, feel free to open it up. Let's navigate to the fundraising section. Slide 15. And there's a host of other tools that are listed here. Quiller and Good Change are also here. Let's spend some time going through it. Does everyone have access to this? I think this is also in the Google Doc if you want to go through it after this call. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that this resource existed and that there are more tools than just Good Change and Quiller for fundraising. And tools that are pretty affordable as well. Okay. As you're going through this deck, the fundraising section, ask yourself if you're using fundraising tools currently and like would a tool like Quiller or Good Change and improve your fundraising efforts? Would it be worth it to integrate a fundraising tool as a part of your tech stack? Okay, I'm going to move right along to data analytics and modeling. So notice a bunch of tools up on the front here. These are the folks who are providing data sources, data aggregation, mapping, voter modeling and targeting, volunteer analytics, fundraising analytics. The ecosystem is also probably more integrated than ever in terms of partnerships, data collection, adoption of data analytics and platforms. So one great data analytics tool is Daisy Chain. So Daisy Chain helps progressive organizations build powerful workflows through automations and integrations. Daisy Chain integrates your data from different tools and sources, and it also uses automation to kind of reduce the grunt work of making sure your data matches across platforms. They also have a blast and peer-to-peer texting automation. So at convention, Higher Ground Labs was sending out texts using Daisy Chain's charms, which are like little gifts. So they also have a texting option as well. I really like their automation pathways, which provide interface for supporter journeys, onboarding pipelines, and ladders of engagement. So you can literally drag and drop a person or a volunteer through the volunteer pipeline based on the activity that they've had with your campaign. So here's an example of that automation. So let's say a new volunteer signs up. You ask Daisy Chain to, I don't know, wait 37 minutes. Then you send them a welcome SMS message in Daisy Chain's platform. Then you can assign that new volunteer to a person within your organization. And a great case study of this is with Many Hands. It is an organization. Hold on, and let me send, I think I have the link here. I'm going to send you the case study in the chat. So with Many Hands, this is an organization dedicated to building a robust base of grassroots working class leaders in areas traditionally overlooked by progressives. They use Daisy Chain to integrate their leads that were generated from Facebook ads. So they literally said, okay, someone likes our stuff on Facebook, someone follows us on Facebook, that's a new volunteer sign up, and then let's put them through this automation. They also use the assignments function to clearly delegate tasks among their teams and make sure that new supporters who engaged in, like I said, Facebook ads move through the ladder of volunteer and supporter engagement. Okay, in that same slide deck that I sent, there are other data analytics tools that I would love for you all to go through, especially if you are in charge of a data department and want to see what tools are out there. A lot of the data analytics tools kind of fall into multiple categories as well, like Daisy Chain, for example, also having a texting option. So just keep that in mind too as you're looking through the data and analytics tools. Like maybe you can kill two birds with one stone there. Okay, next category is media and messaging. These are your message development tools, paid media, ad targeting tools, own media tools. One that I really want, I will sing Speakeasy Political's praises from the rooftops because they were started by folks who worked in the ad space for political campaigns. So like they truly understand the space, and they specialize in developing comprehensive media strategies for campaigns, but also causes, brands. They provide professionally designed and field tested political media that includes mail. So if you're doing mailers, Speakeasy does that, digital ads, branding. They also run their own voter targeting that's AI driven, so you can find the audience that will be most receptive to actually hearing your story. And for teams that are looking to build digital and direct mail programs in-house, their direct to campaign media tools also serve Democratic races up and down the ballot. So you can build their tools in-house. Beyond campaign advertising, their team of political experts can advise on stakeholder engagement, behavior change campaigns, rapid response media programs. So they also have a team of essentially like media consultants in-house that can work with you too. Love Speakeasy. I want to just talk about Amber Childress, who in 2016 used Speakeasy when she ran for the County Board of Education in California. She was taking on a two-term incumbent and used Speakeasy to reach voters who ultimately delivered her win. She had a budget of about $8,000 to spend on direct mail, and Amber used Speakeasy for a 12,500 piece mail run. So just so you know, that's kind of the 8K to 12,000 piece. And a day after she submitted her piece, it was proofed and at the mail house and ready to get into the hands of voters. So that speed is great. And I know it's something that we all are looking for in campaigns, especially right now. And Amber won her race, shout out Amber, by a really small margin of 1,600 votes. So I'm sure that those mailers were really impactful for her. Go Amber. Okay, again, media messaging. There's a ton of tools in that deck that I specifically, took out for down ballot races, that I put in that deck for down ballot races. So please go through them if you're looking for a media messaging tool. Okay, everyone's favorite, volunteer and activist mobilization, voter engagement. I come from field side of campaigns, so this is probably the most exciting category for me. And I wish we had a fraction of these tools when I was running field programs on campaigns. I'm actually really jealous of you all who get to dig into these tools. These are your tools that enable voter engagement, voter contact. These are your dialer tools, your turf cutting tools, your texting tools, relational organizing tools, the whole shebang. Impactive, one tool I want to highlight is Impactive. They offer an all-in-one suite of voter outreach tools, from peer-to-peer texting, phone banking, relational organizing. It's all in one place. And they offer full integrations with NGP Van. So you can upload your lists and leverage, for example, like their peer-to-peer texting tool, predictive dialer, relational organizing tools. They also do voter registration tracking. And Impactive also just announced their integration with ActBlue about a few weeks ago now. So you can text out ActBlue links and track progress using their relational peer-to-peer outreach tool. Impactive also allows you to set up custom forms and allows you to assign volunteers their own list of targeted contacts that they can reach out to. So that's that relational organizing piece via SMS, emails, calls, social media. They really are just an all-in-one digital organizing suite. Okay, Marie Turner is actually an Arena Academy alum. Shout out. In November 2020, they made history by becoming the first publicly non-binary elected official in the US, and the first Muslim member of the Oklahoma legislature. On election day, Turner won their primary by 250 votes. Truly a field margin, folks. And that was the same number of supporter IDs the campaign secured using Impactive. The same number. So Turner's campaign was kind of composed of grassroots organizers without a lot of digital experience, right? They had planned to connect to their community by knocking on doors, holding in-person events, but it was wake of COVID-19, right? It was they were running in 2020, so they had to change their plans. Friend-to-friend outreach was the approach that they went with. So since Impactive automatically syncs users' personal contacts to the app once granted permission, volunteers could easily send texts and email messages to those that they knew best from the app. And in the end, relational organizing played a ginormous role in Turner's victory. Okay, again, I please go through the deck. There's more than just Impactive. I would spend hours and hours going through all the organizing tools because there's a million incredible ones. I'm also going to talk about Civitech, which kind of falls into the category of organizing, kind of falls into another few categories, but I'll talk about that one as well. But first, I do want to take some time and do research. It's our second to the last category. These are the tools doing work around polling, social listening, sentiment research, opposition research. If you have any, if you're into that sort of thing, and legislative tracking as well. So if we have any soft side groups here that, or even, once you hopefully win your election and get into office, you can use this legislative tracking tool as well. So Change Research is a great polling tool. You might have heard of them because of all the awesome polls that they've been coming out with recently on the Harris nomination. But with Change Research, you can run impactful and most notably an affordable online polling. So it's really democratizing online polling and making it way more accessible for down ballot races. Change Research allows you to quickly and accurately recruit a representative sample of poll respondents through digital ads and SMS to participate in online polls. They also offer, again, really affordable, actually very affordable targeting models that are more nuanced than some traditional targeting models that are out there, because they are enabled by AI and also draw on Change Research database of over 250 million survey data points. Change Research has worked with campaigns across all 50 states. A success story I want to highlight, though, is one with the New Georgia Project. So New Georgia Project partnered with Change Research to gain insights into the fairness of the election for the governor of Georgia after the election showed a problem with ballot count. And they targeted Black voters in the state to better understand their experiences in the voting process. And they found that Black voters were significantly more likely to say that they had experienced barriers to voting. Their poll showed that more than half of the Abrams voters, so I think it was like 64%, 65%, did not trust the results of the election, compared to only like 9% of Kemp voters. And so they were able to leverage those results and organize action. I'm going to share that success story. There's that case study. But they more than just polls of that nature, like they do message testing polls as well, things of that nature. So check them out. There's a ton of other research tools. Higher Ground Labs just invested in a tool that does opposition research. That is really interesting. So a ton of tools out there to check out. Okay, for our last category, we have the movement-wide and organizational infrastructure category. So I'd say this is less of an explicit category and more of an umbrella of the behind-the-scenes infrastructure that kind of keeps our campaigns going. This is kind of a catch-all category. So as you're going through that down ballot deck, just keep that in mind. Civitech. So Civitech kind of operates in all sorts of the different categories that we saw today. They are an all-in-one campaign management dashboard and tool marketplace. And their specific down ballot tool is called Running Mate, which has features like an interactive map that shows you registered and unregistered voters in your area. They do comprehensive data aggregation. They have goal tracking, and they also have algorithms to help you identify potential supporters and set your universe. Oh, cool. Oh, I heard that you guys saw a Running Mate demo yesterday. That's awesome. So I won't say any more about Running Mate. You guys get it. But yeah, this is their integrated map. When I was running campus programs, I wish that I had access to this, especially for the unregistered voter element, because this is something, that's works really well on top of Vote Builder, who, Vote Builder, obviously you can only see your registered folks. So, okay. Those were the tools. I know I only picked out a few, but I'm really hoping that you all take some time tonight and go through the tools that exist out there. Um, I would love for you all to just tell me, right, like take a moment, maybe write in the chat, unmute yourself. What kind of tools do you want to prioritize this cycle? What's your next step? Do you have any top questions that you want to ask vendors? Where are you at right now in your thinking and your next steps? Oh, someone just messaged me organizing, but I don't know where to. Okay, so if you are still in a place of I really do not know what to do, what tool to prioritize, I'm sure Jess will send out my email after this. I offer one-on-one tech consults with anyone who wants them. So, we can talk through what your priorities are, and I can recommend some specific tools that may not be jumping out to you on this call. So let me just, I'm sure Jess again will share it out, but I'm just going to pop it in the chat for you all. I'm happy to sit down with you and talk through it. Okay. I want to do another. How comfortable are we now? Post training, are we feeling better? Are we still like, I don't know where to start and I need to do a one-on-one consult? How are we? Thumbs up, thumbs down still? I know more than I did before. I love that. And hopefully this kind of just makes it a little more digestible, and gives you a place to start too. Okay, we have a ton of time left. I want to open it up to questions. I also don't mind sticking on this call as you all are going through that deck, and answering any questions about any tools that are listed there. Do folks have any lingering questions too on the like tech selection process and talking to vendors? Um, Questions about tools specifically? We have over 70 tools that are tested and that we trust in our portfolio. So I might, I have a general sense of all of them, but might not be able to answer a super, super specific question. Uh, I'll stop blabbering. Any questions?
I also wonder if anyone is debating between pieces of tech or tools, or if anyone has a problem that they're trying to solve with tech, because we can help with that too.
Yeah, great, Jess. Thanks. Jason, question?
Yeah, I have a question wrapped in a comment surrounded by a riddle. I don't know. So one of the things that I always feel, and I work for a tech startup, and I know that it gets really overwhelming. Like you went through a lot of information, right?
Mhm.
And I know that there's demos that people can do if they sign up to see them, but to me, it seems like it would be cool if there was a way to like have some of these companies do some kind of a certification program. So, people that are trying to do stuff to stay active year round when there aren't like elections going on, they can be learning these tools and then, having people that can, be on the ground locally in different states and different counties that would be able to, help onboard some of these candidates to using the tech.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredible point and something that we at Higher Ground Labs are trying to accomplish across state parties with the D trip, DLCC. Like we are, hopefully getting as many folks as we can comfortable with these tools to then become recommenders. But I think it's hard, right? If folks, don't know that these resources even exist, don't know how to get started. But I will also add, and I mentioned this before, but just to like drive it home, these tools that we are recommending are, past our kind of test, if that makes sense. And we trust them and we feel comfortable recommending these tools to you all, especially down ballot candidates during GOTV. So hope that helps. But I totally agree with you, and we should talk more about that. What is your startup? Is it for political
Oh,
tech?
that's my day job. I work for a bank that we deal with fintechs, and so we help build banking technology platform stacks and stuff like that. But politically, I assist at our county party level. I'm working on our field plan and our get out the vote plan for the county party. And then I also do advisory services for candidates. I'm working on 2 campaigns as well for House races.
Wow. Busy bee.
Yeah, I get 4 hours of sleep a night.
Also Jess and Deborah, in addition to this deck, I put a buyer's guide into the drive, and that goes through actual pricing and breaks it down for state. Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
It's on the website hub as well, if folks want to check it out.
Yeah, do you mind just walking us through that real quick?
Sure. Let me get it.
And I'll find the link
There,
and drop it.
got it.
Oh, thanks.
No problem.
All right, what a perfect connection back to our budget session. Oh no, there we go.
Got it. Can you see this?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, great. So we broke this down by local, city, county, and state. And something important to note here, this down by ballot buyer's guide recommends 6 months of use. So this total is really going to be, cut in half. So as you're thinking about the budget that you can allocate, maybe it means that you're, expanding your search beyond these tools. But we recommended a tool for fundraising, digital ad and mail management. This is Universe is another campaign in a box CRM voter outreach tool that I didn't get to talk to, but they are great for down ballot candidates and campaigns, and that's in the deck as well. Winnable is a very affordable website builder. It's $50 a month. So if you don't have a website or you're trying to create a new one, it's Winnable. Quiller we talked about, digital ad copy, writing, content generation, fundraising emails. And actually their founder and CEO used to work at Higher Ground Labs and is now over at Quiller. So she totally understands campaigns and what you all are going through, and is happy to help in scaling your programs for GOTV. And then Impactive is here, which we chatted about. And then for state, we have a few of the same options, but also added daisy chain, change research for polling. Good Stock is a really great merchandising option. So we use Good Stock at Higher Ground Labs, and we use them for the campaign where we said they do all the merchandising from start to finish for you, and all the printing and the shipping. So it's really like all in one place, and is really convenient for when you have a million other things that you need to do on your campaign besides worry about lawn signs, because lawn signs do not vote, but they are important. Let's see. And then also I put here People First. People First is influencer marketing for campaigns. There's also another company called Social Current that does influencer marketing, but they don't do it for campaigns. They'll do it for soft side, like progressive organizations, Planned Parenthood, that kind of thing. But if you're a campaign looking to do influencer marketing, People First is an interesting option. They essentially source micro influencers. So those are influencers with like not millions and millions of followers, but still with a significant following, to talk about specific issues or candidates that are mission aligned. So perfect. Does that exists for you all. And these link to more information. And also, if any of these stand out to you all, feel free to skip the whole going through their website and just let me know, and I will connect you directly with the team that you need to be connected with to get things going a little bit more in a faster direction. Oh, let me zoom in a little. There we go. Any questions here? And again, this is just one example of a tech stack that we recommend.
Kind of
But- yeah.
Jason.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Oh, it's kind of a broader question, but if folks like happen to have a small budget that they could make the case for tech in the last, month or two, is there any direction you think you'd point people, or like what kind of questions should folks ask themselves of like, they could do a variety of things with this budget. What would be the thing you might point them towards to make the biggest impact in the next 2 months?
That's a great
Not
question.
an easy question, but just look.
It's a great question. I think it really depends on your campaign goals, right? Like, look at the goals that you set in the beginning of the campaign and the goals that you're at now, and where you are in that progress, like your progress to goal. Is your win number, 5 times still the amount of voters that you contacted so far in the campaign? Well, then you probably need to be thinking about a voter contact tool and thinking about amplifying, your voter contact efforts. Is everything going super well for you and you're doing well voter contact wise? Maybe you want to run some ads, like maybe that's a nice to have, and you want to talk to the folks at Speakeasy Political. It really depends on where you're at. So I would ask yourself, what were my goals in the beginning of the campaign and where am I at now? Where's my biggest gap? And then how can I utilize tech to kind of bridge that gap?
Love it.
Answers your question. I would also say too, like, we all know that there are very repetitive things that happen on a campaign sometimes, very repetitive, time-consuming things. And so is there something that just feels repetitive, that feels like, oh, there should be an easier way to do this? I know that one of my first jobs on campaigns was doing the why am I forgetting the world? Oh, doing the clips in the morning. So sourcing all the press clips and putting them together. And I thought for sure there had to be an easier way to do that than me just waking up at 5 a.m. and like searching on Google for the press clips of the day. And turns out there is, right? And there's a company that's solving for that. So if you're doing something and you're just asking yourself like, or you're talking to yourself like, dang, this is taking a lot of time and it's really sucking up my time to be able to talk to more funders or, be able to be on the ground at a campaign event. Like, what's taking up a ton of time that you don't want to be spending time doing? And that's another area to kind of explore as well.
We have some questions in the Q&A.
Oh, cool.
What are your recommendations for getting documentation from vendors? So many of them are calling and emailing me to sell their tools, but don't have good manuals, white papers, video walkthroughs, and won't return my call when I ask for documentation on the part of their product. I
would say that's a red flag. If you're talking to a vendor and they're not able to provide like simple demos or simple documentation, and I would say like, we don't have time for that. We really don't. It's GOTV. We have 3 months left. And so I would even kind of like step away from, a vendor that's doing that to you, and maybe look at some of the tested tools that HDL recommends, that Arena recommends, that we know likely won't do that to you. I will say also that oftentimes if you get connected directly to like CEO or the founder or the co-founder, they might not be as responsive. So if you know that this is a really good tool and you want to use it and it's within your budget, and you just aren't getting a great response, I would just ask directly to be connected to the marketing or sales teams, because those folks are usually really responsive. That would be my recommendation. But I would listen to the red flags that are out there, you know. This is, you know, not boding well for for GOTV based on their response rate so far.
Thanks. And then there's another one. If a campaign is using an all-in-one tool, do you suggest using other task-specific tools as needed? Or is there an all-in-one tool that is truly all-in-one?
There are all-in-one organizing tools that I've seen, like Universe is a really good example of that. Impactive is a really good example of that. But I would say there's not truly one all-in-one fundraising and organizing and polling and message testing. That doesn't really exist in our universe. You know, so I would recommend adding on, you know, not just going with like an all-in-one organizing, but I think, you know, if you have the budget, I would invest in department-specific tools as well.
All right. Last call for questions. Drop them in the Q&A. It's also sad because I can't see if people are typing. I don't want to be like, okay, bye, and then have someone be typing.
I mean, I'm here. I you know, share my email. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Also, you know, if folks are having contact issues with a company that's specifically on this list that we talked about, I'd like to know that. For whoever asked that question about like not getting documentation or demos, let me know. If they're on the list. But yeah, feel free to reach out, use me as a resource, and I'm so excited for you all. I hope every single person on this call wins their race.
Well, you have another one. If you had to
Oh.
pick your top 3 tools to cover the most ground, what would they be?
Okay, I would go with 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 6 tools, so I can't really do top 3, but I would say these are your tools for sure. If you are a down ballot race.
So Good Change, Speakeasy, Universe, Winnable, Quiller, and Impactive
Yeah.
would be in the top 6. And if you had to whittle it down,
Well,
wouldn't.
chances are you probably have a website, right? So maybe you should take that out. You know, maybe you already have a vendor for your mail management digital ads. So maybe you're not spending money on digital ads this cycle, so you take out Speakeasy. Maybe you're just using ActBlue for fundraising, and you don't need an ad on there. So I think it really, I know I'm like weaseling out of this answer. It's hard for me to pick 3. It is difficult to say without having a comprehensive understanding of, you know, the tools that you're already using and your campaign goals, right?
All right. Oh, Jason is recognizing that we can't copy paste in the chat. It is so that everyone can participate as their full authentic self in the chat without worrying about having to be on the record. But it means that if you drop an email in the chat, it's hard to copy paste it. So we'll get it out to you, and I will drop it. Actually, I have one more thing to put in your participant drive for today, so I'll make sure it's in there so you can click on it from the PDF.
Oh yes, and we are sharing out this deck as well. So we'll share that out after this call as well.
Cool. All right, my friends, if there are no more questions, I believe that is our show. Let's give it up for Liv. Thank you very much for lending us your time and your expertise.
Thank you. Looking
Thanks,
forward to hearing
y'all.
from you all again. Good luck. Happy GOTV.
Yeah. Farewell. Thank you for joining us. I think I'm going to stop the recording now.